What is up, guys? We are back here once again with Why Shit Got Banned, and this time covering yet another controversial Smogon ban and why it happened. This one, a very recent one. Metagross was banned in Sun and Moon OU. So let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, even for more experienced Smogon players and competitive players. Why did Metagross get banned this gen, but not last gen? You would think that over generations, older Pokemon would get weaker due to the power creep, the speed creep every generation. Well, let's address some changes both to mechanics and metagame that made Mega Metagross objectively better in Sun and Moon. Let's start with the buff to Megas, a mechanical change. So in a previous generation, 6th gen, certain Pokemon like Beedrill, Pinsir, Metagross, they had drastic speed increases upon Mega Evolving, and we always had to worry about getting that first turn Mega Evolve so that we can make use of that speed the next turn. The first turn you Mega Evolve in X and Y or S, we still kept the base speed of the Pokemon, so this particularly affected Metagross because before Mega Evolving it sat at a middling 70 speed, allowing it to be checked before Mega Evolving by a variety of Pokemon, you know, Offensive Landers T, Charizard, Volcarona, Garchomp, etc, etc. But now, we don't have to worry about that. Mega Metagross could just Mega up, and it got the coveted 110 speed tier immediately, so no longer was it getting outsped by timid Heatrans before Mega Evolving. That was no longer happening. And even then, like, this is kind of going off on a tangent, but I mean, like, Garchomp, offensive Garchomp's Earthquake didn't even KO from full. That's another part of Mega Metagross's ridiculousness, is the bulk. Just on paper, looking at the stats, Mega Metagross has no bad stat. It's amazingly bulky on the physical side, which is arguably more important since most priority tends to be physical. It's fast, and it's crazy strong with Tough Claws. So, in addition to the mechanical change of Megas, we also had an influx of Fairy types into the tier in the form of the Tapus, which were pretty much introduced to Mega Metagross's benefit. Not only could Mega Metagross check a lot of the premier 7th gen Pokemon that were introduced, particularly the Tapus, the Fairy types, but it could also benefit from the variety of field effects. In fact, every single field effect that the Tapus introduced to the metagame, Mega Metagross could make use of. Electric Terrain powered up one of its most important coverage moves in Sun and Moon, Thunder Punch. So Skarmory, not a counter. Toxapex was not a counter to begin with because of Zen Headbutt, but sometimes you would see Metagross run like Bolt Beam punches instead of Zen Headbutt. So yeah, Skarmory not a counter, Celesteela not a counter under Electric Terrain. Psychic Terrain, that should speak for itself. Zen Headbutt became extremely powerful under that terrain. Imagine the already powerful Mega Metagross with a Choice Banded boost. That's pretty much what Psychic Terrain did for Zen Headbutt. Misty Terrain, you're no longer getting burned by Skull. You're not getting Thunder Wave. None of that shit. And then Grassy Terrain provides you with passive healing while weakening Earthquake from Pokemon like Landorus T and Garchomp. So those terrains that became common after the introduction of the Tapu Pokemon were pretty much like tailor-made for teaming up with Mega Metagross and having that Pokemon succeed. This is not the first time in Why Shit Got Banned that we've talked about the concept of a jack-of-all-trades, master of most. I think Mega Metagross is the embodiment of that phrase to an extent, because even Mega Metagross's most, I guess, standard sets can be associated with a variety of common team-building roles. It has the strength of a wall breaker, the speed of a cleaner, pretty much. It is notoriously difficult to revenge kill due to its 150 base defense. And even then, the best priority moves to hit it with, like Sucker Punch, get nullified by Psychic Terrain, so yeah, good game. And it has the wide move pool of Pokemon like Greninja, and the typing of a defensive Pokemon like Skarmory or Jirachi. And then, in addition to that, we have the very common accusation thrown at potentially unhealthy Pokemon that Mega Metagross's few switch-ins tended to be either very niche, or they get taken down by a potential coverage move anyway. Once again, Mega Metagross does not really have a bad stat. Even its special attack is decent. So you want to run Hidden Power Fire in order to take down Scizors blocking your way? Sure, you could do that. You want to run Grass Knot to take down Quagsire? You probably could do that as well. And even more conventional checks as opposed to counters, such as, say, Rocky Helmet Tangrowth, still took a huge chunk from stab moves and moves like Ice Punch. So those checks are very prone to being worn down and unable to switch into Metagross multiple times. Meanwhile, Metagross retains a high amount of bulk and speed necessary to still clean later on in the game. So the bottom line is that with the tools the metagame had at the time and right now, there simply wasn't enough to particularly hinder Metagross from always doing its job very well. And it's not like full stops to Metagross didn't exist. It's just that these kinds of Pokemon, I mean, think about the Pokemon you would typically associate with a switch-in to Mega Metagross. They're usually very passive, defensive Pokemon that can't actually do a lot back to Metagross. Sure, Tangrowth can put it to sleep and it can run Rocky Helmet, but outside of that, unless you're running Synthesis, which is really niche, what are you going to do? Knock off for like 20 damage? Maybe like some do run Earthquake, but if you want to play that game, Metagross is still KOing you with a bit of prior damage before you can KO it back. Skarmory, unless you're running Counter, which again is a fairly niche move, what are you doing to Metagross besides just whirlwinding it? Mega Scizor, the common set that is used to counter Metagross is the bulky SD U-turn set. I mean, and again, they can still carry HP Fire, so when you're talking about a tournament setting, that's not something that you should be surprised by. Even if you assume the metagame has adapted, Metagross still has tools to get around the conventional checks, and that's what makes it so scary in the tournament setting, and why people, competitive players, deemed it a little bit too unfair, and that it detracted too much skill-based playing from the game. And that's ultimately the main reason why we make these decisions to ban Pokemon. They don't have to be unstoppable. This is a concept I've covered in an entire video of its own. How this misconception of people thinking that a Pokemon needs to be completely unstoppable to be banned. And speaking of misconceptions, I don't know where people got this idea that, oh, Mega Metagross has 4 move slot syndrome. You don't even know what move slot syndrome is. That's when a Pokemon is an offensive Pokemon in particular cannot cover essential portions of the metagame in only 4 moves. That doesn't really apply to Metagross. Maybe people are harkening back to the DPP days where Agility Metagross was used, and the only reason that thing had 4 move slot syndrome is simply because it had to carry Meteor Mash, its Stab, and Earthquake, and the 4th move just wasn't enough to cover essential parts of a likely opposing team. That doesn't apply to Mega Metagross. A huge portion of that has to do with the raw power that it already has, where it can afford to run a stab move with more or less mediocre offensive coverage like Meteor Mash, even though Steel has improved due to Fairy type as an offensive type. I mean, Mega Metagross is an incredibly flexible Pokemon. It has options like Bullet Punch for priority against like Nihilago, like Scarf Nihilago, or Focus Sash Pokemon like Dugtrio, which can't OHKO it unless it has like, I guess, like does Tectonic Rage even OHKO, man? I don't even know. Metagross is crazy bulky. Grass Knot, Hidden Power Fires, and Headbutt, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and any combination, Earthquake, Hammer Arm, a combination of these 4 moves tailored to your team are always going to cover the essential portions of the metagame. You're going to have neutral coverage on most of the essential threats that you should cover. You know, go down the list of the viability rankings, and Mega Metagross in 4 slots generally covers the important ones. That's not, just because it doesn't cover 100% of the metagame does not mean it has 4 move slot syndrome. And no, like by that logic, like everything has 4 move slot syndrome. That's not really how it works. 4 move slot syndrome is like, I guess, Lucario in Oras Yu. Like, it could carry Sword Stance, Close Combat, Extreme Speed, and then the last coverage move leaves you walled out by a certain essential group of threats. If you don't run Iron Tail, you get walled by Fairy types. If you don't run Crunch, you get walled by Ghost types and Psychic types. If you don't run Ice Punch, you get walled by bulky Ground types. That's what 4 move slot syndrome is. It's not just missing out on a couple Pokemon that you could have had covered with a 5th slot. That's not what it is. It's missing out on an essential archetype of Pokemon that will wall you out otherwise. That's not something Mega Metagross generally suffers from. Generally, you're gonna miss like 1 or 2 checks, potential checks, if you don't run a certain move. So, yeah, people need to quit talking about 4 move slot syndrome because that's not a thing Mega Metagross has. It affects some Pokemon. With the increasing power creep, less Pokemon have it. Mega Metagross is far from that. So basically what I'm saying after all that rambling is don't confuse flexibility with 4 move slot syndrome. Just because Mega Metagross can run 10 or 12 moves viably doesn't necessarily mean it suffers from only getting to run 4 of them. At least not to the extent of true 4 move slot syndrome Pokemon like DPP Metagross and Lucario to this day, for example. And this is all without even covering the BS that is Meteor Mash sometimes. So you know how we covered those bulky passive Pokemon that could switch into Metagross? If you catch an unlucky break and Meteor Mash gives a boost, oh hey, Thunder Punch is now doing like 40 to Scizor, and doing like 70 to Skarmory, or however much it does, so... And then it just proceeds to sweep your entire team if you don't have a Pokemon strong enough to kill it, or fast enough at that point in the game. So, it's kind of a more minor thing, but it is something that I do see brought up a lot when talking about grievances with Mega Metagross. Like, it is very luck-based, and is not even close to the main reason why it is broken, but it just adds on to the pile of grievances you could cite with Mega Metagross, is the fact that bulky Pokemon sometimes don't catch a lucky break, and if you're really desperate, you can go for the 10% or 20% or however much it is for the attack raise and just muscle past them anyway. Same thing kind of applies to like Zen Headbutt to an extent, like the flinch chance, so that just is like the cherry on top to the cake that is Mega Metagross and its extreme viability and, well, I use this word a lot and I hate to use it again, but it does apply. Splashability. There's like no reason not to use Mega Metagross on most OU teams. That's how good it was. And for those reasons, Mega Metagross, in my opinion, is better off gone for the healthiness and diversity of the OU metagame going forward, as well as increasing the amount of the skill cap, basically. That is why this shit got banned. I will see you all next time.